Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary Languish, and if you are an art teacher or a parent out there that wants to teach art, this video is for you. Drawing is an important skill and it can be tricky to keep your art projects interesting yet challenging for high school students. So in this video, I will be sharing 3 art projects for high schoolers, specifically 3 drawing projects. You can of course alter these to fit your students the best. So let's get started. All right, so here is the first project. This is a sample. I couldn't find my large one. So quick cover of what materials you'll need. The original of this picture is actually quite large, so it's probably a little bigger than this, but this is, I think, is a 16 by 20 piece of paper, mixed media, so a little bit thicker, so it'll take pencil and Sharpie. But your materials are a large piece of mixed media paper, drawing pencils, a ruler, Sharpie, and reference photos for their theme. So obviously with mine, I went for a China theme. So I've got all of these elements that I wanted to incorporate into this project. So for this project, it's going to be grid related. So teaching drawing, but in a way to incorporate a grid into the piece. But what your students are going to do is you're going to have them create, and this is where you can practice creating a uniform grid across the page. This one is, I think it's 6 by 5, so it might depend on the orientation of the paper here, but you can teach them how to create a grid, however many grid pieces wide and tall you want to do. So teaching them to do that, but then as they're creating their grid, they can think about what theme they're going to incorporate. But the whole point of this, what you're teaching them, is how to incorporate the grid into their piece. Because a lot of times a grid is used to just map out something or lay out something, right? And you're basically wanting to show them how you want them to incorporate the grid into their picture in some way. So you can see from my example here that I've got the Great Wall of China in the background. My grid lines aren't like outlined. They could also outline them if they want, but I have like this teapot going into 2 grid spaces, overlapping a little bit into this one, a little bit into that one. But this one, the Great Wall of China, is a little bit more, it's stopping at the edge of some of those grid lines while also blending softly into other ones. So choosing where to kind of cut off your image so that it, like this little panda, is fitting inside a grid square perfectly, whereas this cutout is bleeding into 3, but then sharply ending here. So somehow creatively using the grid. So instead of avoiding it, how do you incorporate it? How do you use it to create an interesting composition? All right, project number 2 is capturing likeness, teaching your high school students how to practice their drawing skills to the level of trying to capture the look of somebody's face. So obviously I've got some famous, well-known faces here in front of me. I've got 2 printed out on a page intentionally. They're just black and white, like I would focus on black and white so that they don't get distracted by color. And what you'll need for this class is obviously each student will at least need 1 famous person printed twice side by side. They'll need pencils. They'll need a small paper strip that's got tape and a piece of tracing paper that will also fit over the faces, both of them either separately or together, doesn't matter. Erasers, tape, necessary things for drawing. And what your student's going to do is first they're going to take tracing paper and they're going to put it over the likeness of the person, tape it down really good. On one side, they're going to just trace the outline of the features. So they're using a pencil and just drawing sort of the outline of pretty much everything. They can outline shadows, they're outlining features. If there's glasses, you're just outlining these parts of the person's face, okay, on the first one. Second one, they're going to be just shading in value. So you can obviously see the value through the tracing paper, not as well. Obviously, it's not like the same contrast, but you can get enough of the value poking through. You're just doing value for the second one, not really doing any lines. You're just shading, adding texture, that type of thing for the whole face. Trying to be accurate. You want them to do this well. Okay, so what it will look like for the first two, I've got a Meg Ryan picture here, and these are the final results. I got the outline and I've got the shaded. They can take those off of their picture that they were tracing underneath, put them on white paper to kind of see the differences. So learning about line versus shading, and also getting practice with the same face for both of those. And then the final step is to, with their picture here, place a piece of, and this depends on if they're right-handed or left-handed, you might choose a side, but pick a section of the face, so probably this one here is a good one, and putting a piece of a white strip of paper over it and using this one as the reference photo to draw this section of the face as accurately as possible. It's just a small snippet, so you're teaching them how to focus in on smaller details, smaller sections, but you're really working on trying to copy this section over here on this side of the picture, copying likeness. So it simplifies the process of likeness. It's forcing them to look back and forth between what they're drawing and what they're looking at. All great skills to learn. They have to take their time, they can erase, and then the end result should be them trying to capture that likeness. This is my little piece of paper here, in case you can't tell. There it is right there. Of capturing as much of that person in that little snippet, using this as reference to try to practice capturing likeness. All right, and then the third and final project is upside down drawing, which is honestly just a classic. So many different ages can do this project. It just really works the brain differently. It forces them to see shadows, lines, and shapes instead of the object they're trying to draw, because you're trying to turn off that left side of the brain that likes to make things right, make things look a certain way, but it's also the side of the brain that doesn't draw very well. So you want to train them to use the right side of their brain by looking at something and drawing lines and shapes and shadows, not what the picture is. It's a brain thing. And for this project, you will definitely just need some printed black and white reference photos with shading, with values, realistic pictures, and then pencils, obviously, erasers, sharpeners, and a sketchbook or paper to use to draw on. You're not worrying about the end results, you're just focusing on lines, values, shapes, and shading. But for high schoolers, you can kind of take it up a notch to be a little bit more complicated. So this is more something I would do as an advanced line upside down drawing, and you would set it up by putting it under a few pieces of paper in their sketchbook, upside down. So this has to be upside down to them. And you only let about a fourth of it stick out the top. And they draw what they see as accurately as they can, working on placement of lines, thin, thick lines, all of that, all the way across. When they finish that, they get to pull more and add on to it, focusing on lines, shapes, and shadows. But this one, I would say, is, an advanced line one, pretty much. But for high schoolers, you can even take it another step. So I've got, and these are just printed off the internet, simple but realistic, this is another complicated line drawing, but simple, realistic images that have shading to them. This was an actual drawing that I did that was able to photocopy for students, whereas these are photographs off the internet just in black and white. So taking these and using these as upside down reference photos. So I'll do an example. We'll do the soda bottle. They can stick it under their paper also upside down. Again, upside down just forces their brain to turn off a little bit more, the left side of the brain, so that they can focus more on just copying what they're seeing, not what the item is. And they might know already, or they'll start to notice as they get halfway through, but you still want them to focus on capturing just what they're seeing in values. So obviously if you're doing a value picture, you're going to have shading being the focus, and it's a good way to practice that shading. It's just a different approach to upside down drawing. So you can do upside down drawing with pretty much anything, any medium, any reference photo. But I think for high schoolers, you can take it up a notch by adding in some studies of shading, practicing that. And they'll continue going. If they need to pause, you can have them draw a line on their actual picture and then push it into their sketchbook so that they don't see what it is and can pull it back out to finish at a later time. I hope you guys found these projects helpful. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more art content like this, including art instruction, ideas, and help. Bye.